what do you think of TikTok as a live streaming as a funnel to increase sales for a brand? How effective is it for both brand led and creator led lives? And how does Mary Ruth use that sales channel?
Yeah. So at Mary Roos, we're live 24 hours a day, every day. It's probably not what I recommend for a new brand. I do think it's a substantial amount of work. I do think TikTok is very bullish, right? In China on Douyin, which is the Chinese TikTok, live streaming does 90% of all sales, right? So I think TikTok is very bullish on like what live selling can be in the US. I think it's still a little.
Okay, making sure everybody can see it. All right. So this is our little welcome page. We're going to move on this. I'm going to talk a little about myself and just introduce myself real quick. My name is Michael Esty. I'm a Bullseye Sellers partner and one of the TikTok lead managers. So I run the actual TikTok accounts here, along with a few other key members of our team. So I actually started selling on e-commerce in 2013. I've actually built over 9 brands so far on e-commerce. I was definitely a very big Amazon nerd, and I was in the hacks, in the weeds in Amazon. And without using a lot of social posts, I got my brands doing anywhere from 1.2 to 3.5 million a month. I exited my brands in 2023, and but I generated over 78 million in my career in e-commerce for my own brands. That's not including anything else that I've done for anybody else or helped anybody else. So that's my own brand's revenue. So I'm a partner TikTok shop specialist for Bullseye Sellers. So I actually am one of the key players that literally hands-on manage the account and scale TikTok shops. And I actually started social marketing since 2018, and I had viral YouTube videos and viral TikTok videos. We're talking videos that cleared out my inventory in 6 hours on Amazon. Incredible, crazy stuff. I tried to repeat it many times. I had my failures, I had my successes, but now doing it as a regular thing. So about me, we're going to cover a bit about Bullseye Sellers and what we do. So our slogan is Marketplace Experts Obsessed with Growing Your Brand. Bullseye Sellers is really unique in that all of the players in Bullseye are brand owners. We come from owning and running and being the CEO or founder of a brand. So we know exactly what your pain points are. We know exactly the problems you run into. So we've helped over 150 brands, 70 on TikTok Shop alone. We are one of the fastest growing TikTok Shop agencies in the United States, driving growth across TikTok Shop, Amazon, and D2C channels through expert advertising, marketplace management, and data-driven strategy. So all of our account managers are US based or in the UK. We got founded in 2018. We have 50 plus staff experts, and we have 10,000 SKUs under our management. These are some of the brands that we've worked with. And we're very unique. One last thing I'll say about Bullseye Sellers. I actually started as a client of Bullseye Sellers, by the way. I was a long-term client. I became friends with the founder. And when I exited my brands, of course, I joined ranks because I was my favorite people to work with as a client. We just became friends, and very unique, unlike just some robotic type of agency. I'm sure there's some great ones out there, but very unique type of setup. We're going to dive into TikTok Shop and the next big opportunity for Amazon e-commerce sellers. Okay, so we're going to dive into this and what TikTok Shop is. And I think if a lot of brands truly understand what it is and the power behind it, it's like you have to do it. There is no choice. Like it's Amazon times 10. So TikTok Shop is the biggest e-commerce opportunity generation, and I don't think any of you want to miss out or be late to the party. And I think a lot of brands were procrastinating, going, "What's going to happen? Is it going to get shut down?" And they're just now it's not. They're just coming into the party. But a lot of brands that started early are very happy they did. So we're going to dive into some of the demographics. And this is a very common question we get about the demographics of TikTok. And people are like, oh, it's, very Gen Z. It's catered to young people. My product's for people that really are 35 or 55 plus. But if you look at this is a very interesting graph. There's 180 million. I think that's a common knowledge, monthly users. But let's dive into the breakdown of that 180 million users. 45 million 18 to 24, for sure. Right? A lot of young people. 25 to 34, 22%, 39 million This is 21.7%. 20% are 45 to 54, and then another 10.6 are 55 plus. That means 50% of the users are of 35 to over 55 years old. That's buying market. That is the market that we look for to sell a lot of products. Now there is a huge market for the young people too, for sure, for certain products. But you just let's say if your product was geared toward 55 plus, you have 19 million of them ready to buy on TikTok, right? So if you have a senior product or people with older demographics, plenty of them to market to. Huge pool of people. Now, this is a very interesting metric, 2 hours of daily usage. We calculated out, by the way, when we researched this. You know what the daily usage of Amazon is? The average, 12 minutes. If you look at that differential between 12 minutes and 2 hours, you have so much time for them to not just look at your product, but watch videos about your product on TikTok. You don't have that opportunity on Amazon in that 12 minutes. In that 12 minutes, they're looking at the products. Right now, of course, you're going to see multiple products on TikTok, but TikTok's going to show one thing at a time, unlike other e-commerce platforms that show 30 or 50 at a time. So they're going to definitely see your product. 23 billion in shop revenue. It's one of the fastest growing e-commerce platforms out there. So of course, a little blurb here. TikTok isn't just for teens. It's a massive user base. Its massive user base spans all adult age groups with serious purchasing power. So here's the long-term vision and strategy. And I want you guys to really have a good comparable in terms of the growth of TikTok. Let's compare it to Amazon for a second. The early TikTok shop landscape mirrors Amazon's top categories in 2012, but with faster projected growth potential. So this is a category, supplements category in 2012, Amazon was doing 5.1 million in that category in 2012. After 13 years, Amazon is doing 162 million in that same a month in that same category, right? Great growth, amazing. I think we're all extremely impressed with Amazon's growth from 2000s all the way up until today, and it's still growing. Let's compare for a second, though. This might blow your mind. TikTok Shop for that same category is 5.3 million a month. And just in 2029, with the current projections, it is expected to match Amazon's revenue. So they're going to accomplish what Amazon accomplished in 13 years in just four more years, right? So, and it could be more, it could be less, but that is the projected revenue of the same category. And that's the fastness of the growth. Whatever percentage that is, faster than Amazon. And again, we're all super impressed with Amazon. So this is a common question. We also get myth versus truth. Do I need big influencers to win on TikTok Shop? I need big influencers to drive sales. So many sellers believe celebrity creators are essential to TikTok Shop. So this is actually a bit of an incomplete statement or falsehood. And it's funny, me and Jay were just talking about this exact same point before we started. But smaller creators can outperform big names. Micro creators with authentic audiences often drive better results. I'm going to give you a guy's example of this. You could post a video from a big celebrity influencer, it gets 1 million or 1 million plus views. You might get 100 sales from that video. Some brands are getting very little. Like it's a good brand awareness campaign. But you might have a video with 100,000 views that drives $40,000 in sales. Like, it's insane. So that's the difference. And, you don't need these big influencers. It's not about the influencer. It's about who the buyer is. And our data shows a major celebrity influencer delivered 5,000 views despite their massive following. A niche creator with just 1.2K followers and 1.1 million views and 3x higher conversion rate. So, and you see this all the time. You see a big influencer with all these followers, they get a couple hundred views. And then you see a micro creator with 300 followers and they get 1.8 million views, right? And then hundreds of thousands in sales. I would say the easiest way is it's the TikTok, the algorithm. We don't understand it. We can all admit that. It's a big roulette table, and that's what's fun, right? The only difference is you can always keep playing, and eventually you're going to hit. That video is going to hit. That next video is going to hit, or 10 more videos are going to hit. But you do not need these big celebrity creators or influencers to drive your sales. Also, they're expensive. The odds are equal in favor of a small one. This is going to be a very top concern for a lot of brands that were procrastinating, waiting. I talked about this a minute ago. And oh, I can't get started yet because what if it goes away? I don't want to invest all that money into TikTok if it's going away or all that time. And the truth is, I mean, here's what's happening. We're going to share these slides after. And by the way, guys, I'm going to just interrupt myself for a second. I practiced this earlier. Stay till the end. There is something really, really important you want to say. There's a special offer at the end that you do not want to miss. And it's a very limited time. So you definitely do not X out this at any point. Stay on the live webinar. Here's a little article. You can click on this. We'll share this with you. If you guys have heard on your TikTok or in the news, Fox, whatever, or the media, the deal is coming, right? There is a deal in play with TikTok. TikTok is not going away. It is here to stay. So, and a lot of people were very concerned about that. I had my moment where I was like, even 6 months ago, I was like, what's going to happen? It's here to stay. It is assured. The deal, the Chinese government, and all that stuff that you could read about politically is happening. So it is not going anywhere. And so now this is a very common situation we encounter. I'd probably even say 70% of the accounts that we work with have a problematic approval process. So we found that it takes a matter of days, as long as you are a U.S.-based corporation on a brand category. So pretty much, just so you know, guys, we have a 100% success rate with getting shops approved. We're going to have a Q&A, by the way, after on this exact question. So you can save your questions for the end. We're going to talk more about that and the approval process. I already know that a lot of you come on here, you already tried your hand on it, you got disapproved. It's honestly the most common problem we encounter, but we know exactly how to fix it. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later. And and this is another common thing that happens too. Consumer trust, shopper trust on TikTok is increasing by the day due to TikTok's fierce attention to seller compliance and customer support metrics. Shopper demographic is aging, with 31% now being over the age of 40. The reason why a lot of the approval process is complicated is because TikTok is really vetting that trust for new sellers. They want to make sure you're legit, you're perfect, and all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, because they don't want any poor performing sellers or illegitimate sellers coming on a TikTok shop. That forms trust. This is a major question. Can I sell a TikTok shop US if I'm not a US citizen? Yes, you can. And here's a little summary checklist. Again, these will be shared. But as long as your legal ducks in a row, you have a legal LLC, the only thing that you guys are missing is an authorized US rep. Whether you have a family member or some people have used lawyers to do it for them. Some people have used just friends. Some people have used, and a lot of people actually use us. Actually, Bullseye now offers U.S. representation or extra charge for national brands. A lot of people get this confused with what's called a UBO, or a beneficial owner of the company. Your authorized rep is not an owner of your TikTok shop. They don't own it. They don't have to have the login. You just need their ID. They want a valid US ID uploaded into the TikTok shop. As a rep, they want to make sure that there is a US person connected to the shop. Doesn't mean they own anything or have access to your bank account. So that's a common misconception when needing an authorized US rep. A lot of people definitely use a friend, relative, etc. And I know we're almost done, guys. And Jason, we're going to have some Q&A with Jay. So this is a very important point. The goal of TikTok Shop is not profit. The goal is brand recognition and high demand for your products in all channels. You're looking for impressions. So a lot of people go, oh, is TikTok profitable? For your business, yes, you might not start off at it being profitable, or a direct P&L from TikTok Shop is not what you're looking for. It is literally a brand growth driver. So if you're not making profit on TikTok Shop, but you're driving sales, you're driving impressions, you're definitely making sales elsewhere. So it builds a machine that can acquire and scale the lowest costs. The lowest CPMs available on social media today, with some brands are managed paying as low as $2.50 to acquire a sale, to acquire 1,000 impressions. All right, so we're going to go over Jay, and now I'm going to do a little intro on Jay, and you guys were very anticipating hearing from Jay and how he scaled Mary Ruth. I'm going to give a little history background. So Jay is the CRO of Mary Ruth, and long story short, he manages their marketing and e-commerce, right? So what does CRO stand for again, Jay?
Chief Revenue Officer.
Chief Revenue Officer. He is in charge of all of the income for Mary Ruth. So Jay transformed Mary Ruth into America's #1 liquid vitamin brand using TikTok shop strategies. His journey proves what's possible when traditional Amazon sellers embrace social commerce. Went from $0, like a lot of us had in TikTok shop sales in January 2024, to approaching 70 million plus in sales in 2025. So here's their achievements. Number one ranked liquid vitamin in the USA. That is a hell of an accomplishment. Grew from 150 million to 4 million in just 3 years, built a massive loyal community of repeat customers, achieved a 4x lower customer acquisition cost than the competition. And I'm sure they are desperately trying to figure out how you did that. Extremely impressive metrics. And that, again, even we all know if we're from the Amazon selling background, achieving number one and multivitamins as a general category is a over Ollie and goalie is a hell of an accomplishment. So hats off to you for that. Now, again, stay till the end for an incredible offer after Jay's interview. Do not leave the webinar. You definitely don't want to miss that end. All right, so we're going to start and go into a live Q&A with Jay Hunter, and this is where we can ask him anything. I know a lot of questions already came in, and we're going to kick this off. And I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. I think I'm done at this point. Beautiful.
Awesome.
Okay, so I'm gonna start off with a couple of high-level questions to kick this off, and we're gonna move on from there. I'll take some of these questions here. But Jay, when I want to know about your beginning journey of TikTok Shop in that 2024 era, what did you start off doing and to get to where you are today? But what was your first like initial strategy used to like get on the TikTok shop? You made your products live, and then what was that next step that you started approaching?
Yeah, I mean, I think the sort of beginning strategy for us was sort of the same one I'd recommend today. It was just, a lot of product seeding. I probably went a little bit more aggressive than other sellers might be able to do early. We're just a sizable brand outside of TikTok, so sort of got a little bit of a cheat or a head start there. But I could see the vision early that TikTok Shops was going to be sort of the next Amazon, right? It really feels like the early days of Amazon here, what I call the gold rush era. And I could just see that, TikTok's a channel sort of different than any other channel, sales or marketing channel, where like there's a little component of randomness. And I think for us, like we just sort of saw that early, and we understood that the strategy was a bit wider than it was deeper with creators, at least for us. And so we went really heavy on product seeding very early. We built it up over time where we're giving away 10 units a day. That turned into 20, that turned into 40, that turned into 100, and then 500. Today we're giving away quite a few units every month. But I could really see like just getting the number of videos and creators talking about the product was really how to start the engine. So
Started off as a numbers game. So you just went in with those numbers. Okay, great. Let's take a question from the audience. I'll scroll a little above here. Okay. Ernesto, do you have one that you have pointed out? I'm just scrolling right now. Okay, so actually, here's one I'm going to take up. So is TikTok's presence in the US sustainable given the current political and legal challenges? And this is actually a good question for a big company like Mary Ruth thinking about things like that. If you have anything to say to that one.
yeah, I mean, I think for us, we prepped a few times this year, like what would be our TikTok shop contingency strategy. I think I've always felt good that it was going to stick around. I mean, I think for me, our overall philosophy at Mary Ruth is just 1% better every day. And I think for me, like I feel like TikTok's here now. I'm going to maximize it while I can. If it goes away later, that's fine. But I want to build it big as a moat or competitive edge against my competitors as I can. So, I'm going hard on TikTok now. I think you just need to be, consistently updated with the news. And like, if you do need to have a contingency plan where you pivot or something, that's fine. And I think that's reasonable. But I think based on the latest news, TikTok Shops is not going anywhere. So
yeah, very good answer. I would definitely agree that. And that to the very valuable point you made is, grab it while it's hot, right? Like there's money to be made, even if let's say, everything goes exactly the opposite way. Like, people predicted if you started 6 months ago, even though you could have got 6 months of traction, right? And say, hey, that's still worth something to a brand. So still always an opportunity. I'm going to throw in one of mine here. And I want to talk a little bit about the actual, like, and this is, you already hit on this, the affiliate strategy, right? So you started off with those, with a numbers game of affiliates / creators with creators, right? So you went, okay, let's get as many as we can. Well, one, like what number does that look like for a new brand coming on a TikTok or even an existing brand? Let's start with that question. How many affiliates do you think you can start with?
Yeah, I mean, I think it varies for every brand, for every category, right? Like I think that it's sort of a complex question, but I think what I advise most brands, is just play your game. And so you really need to think through like the model and what you can afford, right? I think there does require a few months of upfront investment. It's mostly in product seeding versus marketing spend, where like you're investing and likely not profitable in those very early months, right? So it really depends on what you can afford to do early. My opinion is you start at some smaller scale, maybe that's 15 units a day, where every day, you're going to have some combination of outreach to creators, approved product samples, where you're trying to give away 15 units every single day. And once you're consistently doing that for, 7 or 10 days, you might want to bump that 15 units a day to 30 units a day, right? But it really depended on your model. And then also, again, a little bit of that randomness, how early you find success, right? If you have a couple of early viral videos, you'll be able to afford to give away a lot more product samples early. If it's a little bit slower, you can at least continue to scale with this model and sort of, as videos are coming in, what's the GMV that you're producing, and then what's that's going to cost you long term. So I think it's a little different for every brand, every category. But I think, my recommendation is you build a model, you try to stick to the model, and you try to scale it up, right? Because that'll give you some boundaries on how many creators should you be reaching out to every day? How many samples should you be approving? How many videos you should be expecting? And then once you sort of have that math, you can scale it from there.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I think there was a question here from Bryant, which is what's your promotional strategy on TikTok compared to Amazon and Shopify? Which obviously it's you answered a lot of that I think in the affiliate outreach, but it's you can elaborate more on that one.
For sure. Yeah, no, I think it's more product seeding and creator outreach, right? So it's very creator driven, right? Our strategy on Amazon is a lot more promotion and advertising focused, right? So like we're very big on Amazon. I think sort of the flywheel game is you rank for a keyword, you get sales, you rank higher for that keyword, right? And that's the flywheel there. On TikTok, the marketing strategy is slightly different in that the flywheel is you work with creators, they drive sales. And so other creators see that they can make money selling your product and then they, get your product and create videos. So I think it's slightly different where on, I think Shopify or Amazon or just like sort of my general omni-channel strategy outside of TikTok shops is there's a lot heavier layer of paid media. And then I would say, there's a lot more like merchandising. On TikTok shops, I think it's very focused on working with micro creators, working with as many as you can. I do think there's a component of going deep with some of the creators and driving sales like that.
By the way, Michael,
That's
I
a
see a lot of questions coming in. They're all great questions, and we're going to try to answer them, as many as possible. I don't think we're going to be able to get to every single one of them because we'll need to be here for a few hours. But I just posted the link. If anybody wants a one-on-one with Michael or anybody of our TikTok team members, you can just book a call, and we'll be more than happy to talk to you. Just want to throw it out there because unfortunately we will not be able to get to every single question.
Actually, I really like this question. So, if you were to start with a new supplement brand and a $2,000 a month budget before hiring an agency, what would your strategy be?
That's a tough question. I haven't been in that exact position in
It's
quite a bit.
yeah.
I think it's good. I mean, again, I think, I need to know even more, right? Like what's the price of the product you're going to sell? What does the margins look like? I think the one nice thing about the supplement category in general, and this applies to other categories like beauty and others, but the gross margin is quite good, right? So if the budget's $2,000 a month, I would try to invest that again, mostly in product seeding. But I'd have to know the product cost and what shipping and fulfillment is like to know like how many units per day that is, right? But I try to get some consistency on how many units every day you can get out and how many videos you can get coming in. And I'd start there. I mean, again, I need a little bit more information, but
then to elaborate that, like, if you have a budget and if I have a very limited budget TikTok shop, it's going to be, I'm going to try to seed as cleverly as possible, so, giving out 3 or 4 a day and just keep on going every month and just add up your creative library and your affiliates connected to your account. Because once an affiliate is connected to your account, by the way, you could keep messaging them. You could keep talking to them. And you might get 20% of them that continue to post more videos about your product. So, and another good question from Bass, you gave away 100 products per day. How do you find this amount of influencers/creators?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple ways. I think the widest way to just reach the most creators is to work with some type of TikTok shop affiliate bot, which there's a number of them. At Mary Ruth, we use a tool called YukaBot. I think the Bullseye Seller guys use one called Hive IQ. Is that it, Michael?
Optic. We use Optic.
used Optic.
Uptick is the main one.
Uptick is a
Very, very similar.
great one. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think all of these are great bots. You create a little bit of like some type of custom message for your product, your brand, and it reaches out to can reach out to technically a few thousand creators every day. I think if you want to go a little bit more quality route and you're very limited in how many samples you can give out, you need to use a tool like Fastmoss or Calidata, where you can go and find creators that are driving high GMV that look like they might be, the same size or fit for you, and try to reach out to them directly. But I think those are the two most common routes.
There you go. Yeah, and to his point, just to further elaborate, yeah. So using a bot is probably there's also AI integrated into a lot of bots. It's going to be probably the easiest way. The other way is there's pools of affiliates with a lot of agencies and software out there, right? So you can grab onto those and get the affiliates that way. There's definitely a lot of ways it's going to get affiliates and volume too. Actually, this is a common question that I've gotten before. It's a good question. At this stage, do you think that TikTok Shop is still in its infancy, or is it like really saturated?
No, I think it's still way in the infancy. Like I think there's no. Yeah, I mean, certainly last year would have been great to join TikTok Shops, but I still think now is a great time to join. A lot of the legacy brands, right? The P&Gs of the world, they're not yet on TikTok, right? So there's still a lot of brands coming. And I think now's, still the most optimal time to get in, and you'll still be early and still be able to build a moat. I think it's more, it's tougher than it was last year, but it's only going to get harder in the future years if you wait.
Definitely. And actually, another great question, and I definitely have had a lot of conversations about this. When you get a good video on TikTok that produces sales, do you ever like buy it from the creator and repurpose it?
Yes, I would say sometimes, right? That's core to like our normal omni-channel strategy. I would say on TikTok Shop, the videos are usually pretty like shop focused, so it's usually hard to do that. I think if you find the right video, the creator's great. Like, yeah, I would try to work with that creator more, and I would try to get some content ownership if that's something they're open to. In our sort of core strategy, we're always like trying to buy or own some of the creator content and then mix that into paid media, do a lot of video editing and chopping it up. Again, on TikTok Shop, it's a little difficult sometimes because the content's so like, hey, this is what's happening on Shop. But I think if you can, you should for sure.
I'm going to ask the second question. So in terms of what type of affiliate do you usually look for? So obviously you're looking at volume, right? But then so let's say all these affiliates are coming to your TikTok Shop and requesting samples. And you have a million sample requests to get that sample out. What would you say like the kind of guys that you approve or work with? Obviously, you have your strategy. Would you recommend any strategy for a new seller?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think thousand roads to Rome on a lot of these strategies or topics, but I think for this one, for us, we're very focused on the numbers, right? I give the team almost no authority to judge the creators or the content, right? Like they don't get to pick who we're going to work with based on what type of creator they are, what type of content they make. We only judge creators based on their post rate, right? So TikTok gives you this metric, but if they've got 10 product samples from different brands and they posted 8 times or made videos 8 times, they have an 80% post rate. So we're usually looking for a high post rate. I think for a new brand, that's especially important because you want to stretch every single product sample you give out. You want to turn into a video. And then the other one is GMV, right? So have they ever made a video that made money on TikTok? For us, those are the only two metrics that we use today to define if we're going to work with a creator or not. If you're a new brand, I would go high post rate, and then I would just sort based on highest GMV generated down, and then I would just approve whatever your quota is, right? So if you got 100 requests, but you only want to approve 10 samples today, I would just take the top 10 with high post rate, whatever your threshold is, 80%, and then just take the top GMV generators. And that's how I would sort of stretch my early samples for sure.
Perfect. All right, I got some other good questions. So what do you think of TikTok as a live streaming as a funnel to increase sales for a brand? How effective is it for both brand-led and creator-led lives? And how does Mary Ruth use that sales channel?
Yeah. So at Mary Ruth, we're live 24 hours a day, every day, which is probably not what I recommend for a new brand. I do think it's a substantial amount of work. I do think TikTok is very bullish, right? In China on Douyin, which is the Chinese TikTok, live streaming does 90% of all sales, right? So I think TikTok is very bullish on like what live selling can be in the US. I think it's still a little early, but I do think it helps, right? Like it just gives you another touch points where potential customers or audience gets to see your product, and they usually get to do that before they maybe get the shop video and they get enticed to buy. So I do recommend going live. If you're a small team, you can start scrappy. Even at Mary Ruth, we started very scrappy. I offered anyone who worked at the company, whether you were in customer care or quality or finance, you could go live in your kitchen for 2 hours in the evening, and I would pay you $50. So you know, you can start very scrappy, and that's what I recommend. Maybe just a couple hours a week is totally fine. But I do think it's a good thing to start, and it's also quite affordable, right? You really just got to pay the rate for whatever it takes for someone to do the work. But I do think live streaming is pretty essential. For us, after we did that, we kind of moved into agency world, and then we brought it back in house. You know, to go 24 hours a day is sort of a big undertaking. But I think for any new brand, you should start at least with a little bit of live for sure.
Beautiful. And this is a very good question. What are the most important KPIs to focus on for affiliate strategy in the first 3 to 6 months? Like, what do you look at for if you're doing well or not?
Yeah, I mean, I think you want to look at you know, how much outreach you're doing, what kind of sample requests you're getting based on that outreach. So you sort of want to know like your take rate for you sent 1,000 messages, how many people requested samples, so you know if you have a good outreach message or not. I think that's highly important. You want to look at how many samples you've given out just to track like, are you continuously giving out more samples than you were? And then you want to judge how many videos are getting created. Ideally, unique creators and the amount of videos. I think at the very beginning, those are the only metrics that really matter, right? You want to obviously look at the P&L a little bit, and you want to be too much in the red. But I think in the early days, you just want to make sure that you have a good outreach message that people are responding to. You're getting enough sample requests. You're giving out more samples than you were before. And then you're getting more and more videos generated for your brand. I think that's like the very early stage. And those are the most important things for sure.
And this is actually another great question. And I can even help answer this one too, but I want your take on it for sure. Do you have a model that helps simulate or calculate the break-even point specifically after how much time and with what level of investments? Do you have a model that sort of helps calculate the financial P&L and the investment that you put into the samples or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, we at Mary Ruth, you know, we have a pretty big analytics teams. You know, on my team, I have 3, you know, rocket scientist girls who can help me calculate pretty much any model under the sun. So for us, you know, we're very in tune with like, you know, what do we think the selling prices be? What's going to be our gross margin? You know, what's the product cost, stuff like that. But, you know, I think this is one of the few areas where I recommend, like, especially if you're a new brand, potentially, you know, working with an agency, because they see this a lot, right? And it's a little different for every single type of brand. So, you know, you want an agency that sort of understands like, you know, what's the model for different type of products? How does it move in different categories? You know, like how long is it going to take to break even, which I think can vary, you know, based on your product, how good it is, the market, all those types of things. So, you know, might be for you and Ernesto to talk about, but yeah, I think there's a lot of ways to model it. And I think working with the agency is probably the best way to get the right answer on this one. So
that makes sense. Yeah. Well, I think one thing we were talking about before the webinar too is a very solid point on this is, you know, in the beginning, I would look at TikTok, and even as you're growing on TikTok, looking at TikTok as a singular P&L, like taking out all the cost of sample seeding, the advertising costs, and doing a full P&L breakdown for TikTok, because TikTok often is going to influence omnichannel. It's going to influence retailers, it's going to influence Amazon tremendously. It's going to influence a lot of brand growth. So I would say like a lot of what TikTok's going to do is tie into your company P&L. So, and I think that's a very analytical way of looking at it. At the beginning, you're going to see it's like your company P&L might go down a little bit because of the investment in TikTok. But over the course of 6 months or a year of being onto it, the growth of your brand is really what you're going to measure, right?
yeah, I mean, I think you know, you guys have seen this, you know, dozens of times, right? Where it's a little bit in the red the first, you know, let's say 1 to 5 or maybe 6 months, but then you get way in the green, right? Especially as a company, the more TikTok scales up, right? So
Exactly. And then let me look for some more. Let me just ask this question right here. So how do you see and how do you envision TikTok evolving over the next 1 to 2 years? And what should trends and what should brands be watching out for?
this is a tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
I mean, I
tough questions.
think, you know, TikTok's so unique. Like when you know, when sort of I first learned about TikTok Shops or understood it, I was like, wow, like this makes a lot of sense. But I had never thought about it a day in my life before that. Like I never thought it, you know, I'd be on TikTok and then all of a sudden you could just check out with something. Like I just didn't see it coming. I think live streaming definitely takes on just more of a role. I think TikTok very bullish on it. And I think just naturally, you know, with things like Twitch and other live streaming platforms, like you're just going to see more people engaging with live streaming. So I think that becomes a bit bigger. You know, I also think like brands who don't have the right game plan and maybe going a little bit too aggressive now to like make or force TikTok to work, you know, might not be around the platform as much anymore, right? So I think right now there's a little bit of like a influencer arbitrage where some brands are overpaying for influencer partnerships or creator partnerships, sort of making the, high level, especially the larger creator economy, like not so sustainable. And I think that'll come down to like a more moderate level that makes sense and like allow some of the middle to smaller brands to play. So
Makes perfect sense. Yeah. And this is actually a question that's come up a few times on product price, and also combining with bundling. So, do you, or would you say it would be a successful strategy to have your price higher or lower on TikTok than your other D2C channels or Amazon, or doing frequent flash sales? Like, what would be the strategy behind pricing, or even adding bundles to like try to get higher AOV?
yeah, I mean, I think on TikTok generally, I think it's a pretty like deal slash promo driven marketplace. So I do think that you sort of have to have ongoing flash sales or other deals. But I think the consumer there is a little unique. So I think you can sort of, not nefariously, but you can artificially inflate your price a little bit and then make the discount seem a little steeper than it is. But just give a reasonable discount you might get on other platforms, right? So you might give 20% discount on TikTok, but that really equates to like for you, like realistically, like a 10 to 15% discount, which is something you might already give on Amazon or Shopify, right? You want a little bit of price consistency, but I think just having that higher percent off on TikTok really does help, drive a lot of sales there.
I definitely seen that same thing too, and I agree with that completely. So this is actually a very good question. Should a brand have a certain amount of organic TikTok content, like their own posting or branded content, before starting with seeding affiliates?
I don't think it's necessary. I do think it helps, right? I think there's some great brands like Cheers and others who have like just crushed the organic game, like really scrappily, which I think is very affordable. So, I think you can. I think at Mary Ruth, we started with a little bit bigger budgets. So we went the more paid route, which would be the product seeding, working with creators. But I think if you can like crack the code and you have someone in the office or you're a founder that's really great at social, like if you can go and do the hard work of making great content, iterating on it, making it better, always improving it, then I do think organic social has like a great place in the strategy and can definitely help. I think for us, we supplement that with working with like a lot of creators and live streaming, right? I think I always tell people, but like stick with what you know and what you're good at. And for us, like, organic, we haven't been as good, but it's something that we're growing now. But, we spent a lot of the early focus on product seeding, live streaming, and sort of organics coming into the picture next.
Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. I want to jump into, because there's a couple questions coming in about ads, and I want to jump into the ad side of platform. Some questions about comparing it to Meta, and also like what ROAS you run at, or what you're allowed to run at, and what would a new brand run at, or like what's recommended. So if you want to go over a little bit of the ad strategy.
Yeah, I mean, I think on TikTok shops, you got to think about marketing three components, right? So it's your product seeding cost, and that's the cost of the product and the shipping and fulfillment to get that sample to a creator. It's the affiliate commissions, and then it's the ads, right? Or your paid ad dollars. And I think you got to think about all three of those together. Every category, every product's a little bit different. For us, we want those three things combined to be about 25 to 26% of our gross sales, right? So I think that's something, every brand has to measure sort of for themselves. For us, we spend about 10% on the commissions, since that's off net, not gross. We spend a little bit on the product seeding, and then we give the rest to ads, right? But the ad budget is really determined by how much we're going to spend on the affiliate commissions and the product seeding, and it sort of gets the leftover, which is, I think, all right. I think, for us, we do almost everything in-house at Mary Ruth. Very few things we outsource. But I do think for a new brand, like, paid ads is one of the more complicated, even on TikTok, where like it's mostly run GMV max, to understand like how much content you need and what you should be setting for the ROAS targets and how you should set the budget. Like, I do think it's one of the few areas I recommend, people outsourcing, right? I think agencies just have a good view of so many different accounts, so many different ad budgets, so many different ROAS targets. Like, that's a place I find agencies or even freelancers can give like a lot of guidance. Ernesto, I don't know if you want to elaborate a little bit. I know you guys have an offer today that might help people on this piece, but I do find like a lot of brands struggle doing this one in-house. So,
okay. A lot of questions did come in about commission and what tier of commission, how do you give commission? Do you increase it? Do certain affiliates give more? Random questions like that. So I want to cover your strategy for giving those affiliates commission.
Yeah, we have pretty basic strategy. We do 20% on organic content, and we lower that to 15% if that content gets into the paid ads. We're pretty consistent on that. We're also very upfront, right? Like, we tell creators, we sort of have a two-part messaging system. We reach out to creators, hey, we'd love to work with you. If we approve their sample, we send them a follow-up message that says, hey, your sample shipped. Here's some, talking points about the product. And then just a heads up, we offer 20% commission, but if we run ads or you enable ads on your video, you get 15% commission. I think as long as you're just upfront with creators, they feel fine about that. In very rare cases, we'll increase commission from 20 to 25% on maybe a few creators that are doing really well. We rarely go higher than that. I think just with commissions and discounts and ad spend, any higher than that, it's quite difficult to be profitable. So usually for us, we're sticking around the 20 to 25% range on the high end. I think in some very rare cases, it might make sense to go to 30. But I think more than that, it almost becomes unbelievable to the creators. They're like, hey, what's wrong with the product, right? Like at 30% and under, it's like, okay, it's a nice offer, it makes sense. But more than that, it's sort of like discounts. If you offer, sometimes, too high of a discount on a specific product, they're like, hey, is something wrong with the product, right? So, if it's limited time, makes a lot of sense, even on discounts or commissions. But I think, for us, that's what we normally do.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And another follow-up question on that. So would you ever do like a paid collab with any of these guys, with any of these affiliates or creators, if one was cool or great or big following?
Yeah, so we're running sort of, two strategies. Again, I run my TikTok shops a little bit in a vacuum, and I never do a paid partnership on TikTok shops. I only do affiliate-based or commission-based affiliate partnerships on TikTok shops.
Interesting. Okay, so is there, if someone, even if a big guy came to you, a big influencer, big creator with tons of followers, you'd be like, it's like equal opportunity as a small versus the big. Is that like sort of your take on it?
Yeah, I think always, right? I think just like the potential for that the thing about a commission structure is it's, outside of seeding the product, it's impossible to lose money, right? You only pay commissions when you drive sales. But, if you give a huge creator 50K, it's possible they produce no sales, in which case you lost 50K, which would, the amount of samples you could have given out to micro creators for 50K would have been like a lot safer, healthier strategy, in my opinion, right? I think it's possible if you find the right creator and you're confident in their ability to drive sales. But for me, sometimes it just feels like gambling, right? TikTok's got that component of randomness where even a great video from a big creator might not do numbers, So I think you just got to be a little bit careful if you're going to work with some type of paid partnership. You want to keep it sort of light, $1,000 a month for a certain number of videos or $500 a month. Those you can scale. More than that, I think it gets a little bit dicey.
Yeah, I agree. Makes perfect sense. I'm going to cover a question which came up a little bit earlier, which is about the shop setup. Just because with my team in Bullseye, we've, all together have literally gotten approved and selling 70 plus shops, right? So a lot of the shop setup, I'm just going to cover this really quickly in terms of questions. A lot of people, I'd say 8 out of 10 shops struggle to actually get set up properly. And there's document issues, there's disapprovals, there's ID verification problems. It's extremely common. I would be surprised sometimes if a shop got approved in 24 hours and everything went perfectly. It's very rare that actually happens nowadays. They want you to dot your I's, cross your T's. If you're uploading your ID, that name on the ID needs to match your exact utility bill that you're submitting or your bank statement. If you're uploading an LLC or EIN document, it needs to match everything. Your address needs to match. You need to prove everything to the letter. Your address, your name, your identification, your business identification, your business documents. If you're getting category approval, that invoice needs to match that business name on your LLC. Everything has to be perfect. And the reason why we get all of our shops approved is we do our due diligence, kind of like almost like a lawyer in the way of vetting all that information before we submit it to TikTok Shop. So if something mismatches, even one little detail, such as a middle initial on your driver's license, you can get rejected. It's as nuanced, as tiny of a detail as that. And the reason why all the sellers here that probably applied to TikTok Shop and got rejected is the devil's in the details, and also what type of document are you uploading? How does it look? How is it scanned? Is it a JPEG? All those little details matter for TikTok. And so we've had a pretty much 100% approval rate. There are some accounts that we're still getting approved. It's been 2 weeks now. They're still getting their documents in order, sellers. So that's to answer a lot of those questions that come in about account approval. And we'll go into some more questions. And also, guys, there will be a replay for those questions that come in. There's going to be a full replay of the links, and the full slide deck will also be shared as well. And all right, I'm going to ask this question to you. Do you ever, and this is a question that came in a few times, do you reuse affiliates? Do you reach back out to them? Because once they're connected to your account, are you recycling them constantly?
Yeah. So, we have a Discord community, which I would say is sort of the next tier after you're doing this large creator outreach. We're trying to get as many creators as we can that have created a video and generated, any amount of sales, one sale, into this Discord group so that we can have more direct communication with them, right? It's tough to communicate in the TikTok messaging system, so we're trying to move them out of there as fast as possible. Our team likes Discord, but there's again, 1,000 roads to Rome. We could use WhatsApp or other sort of communication channels. We like Discord. In our Discord, though, we're pretty moderate. I've got a great team. They manage it for me. They're talking to all the creators, but we're very big on like hey, here's $100 for the best video this week, or whoever posted the most videos this week will get $50, right? We're pretty small, I would say, on like our rewards and how we're building the community, right? We try to make it really authentic. Some of my competitors, might give away Lamborghini trucks or Miami penthouses. We take a little bit more frugal approach, I would say, but we just try to encourage people to post more videos if we can. And we do think that's useful. You just got to understand, like, what's a good rate to pay for a video, right? Like I wouldn't pay people $100 to post another video, but I might pay $20 or $15, right? And so if someone has the product and they're already a creator for you, yeah, I do think working with them is a bit easier, and I would try to get the most you can out of them. But you got to be thoughtful about it, and you always got to be thinking about what it costs. So,
And do you do contests for those type of people to get them motivated into
yeah,
doing more videos?
Yeah, again, a lot of times it'd be like, who posted the most videos this week, right? So, or hey, anyone who posts 5 videos this week will give you an extra $50, right? We try to do something that makes sense for us,
So like that, okay,
for them to do, right? So it's very simple contests, not really big ones that have major rewards that are expensive. So
perfect, yeah, makes perfect sense. Obviously, a contest with you do this amount of GMV or post this many videos gets you better rewards. You get cool stuff when that happens. I've done stuff like that too, and I have a lot of stuff like that ongoing, and I found that I got a lot more videos. Not everybody, but a handful of people will definitely continue to post more videos. It's great. Some of them, I've had people post 25 videos.
Yeah.
Right? It's awesome. So, and last question, if you came in like this on a brief. So, how do you brief influencers, your brand, your product, your messaging? Provide them with specific angles or positioning? Like, do you direct their videos? Do you let them speak freely based on product benefits?
Yeah, for us, we try to give creators as much freedom as possible, right? We want them to create authentic content that's true to them, and also, I think creators, feel some type of way if they're locked too much in a box, right? So for us, usually we provide a creative brief when we send them that message. Hey, here's your samples on the way. We're just very much like hey, here's the 3 things we'd love for you to say about the product, right? It tastes great, grows your hair, does X, right? Like, and then our category comes with a lot of like legal and compliance. So we have a little section that's like, hey, our lawyers ask you, please don't say these things. But otherwise, we try to give creators as much freedom as we can. And I think that's the way to do it. So
I saw a question earlier. Yeah, we can hear you, Michael. Jay, someone asked, where do you set your ROI target on the GMB Max ads? I know TikTok is mainly top of funnel, but what ROI target do you?
Again, I think it depends on your product. For us, usually we're targeting a 3 or greater, but we can, at our size and our volume of content. But I think everyone, every product's a little bit different. So you gotta pick what works for you, what's profitable for you. So
okay, great. Someone was asking, what is the minimum product season do you recommend for a new brand on TikTok?
I think it varies on your budget, right? I think you want to scale it up over time. So I think the minimum could be 1 unit a day, but I think you do got to think about like what's going to be scalable and how can you, level it up over time. My recommendation is probably start with around 10 product samples given out per day is like the low end I would start with, and scaling from there.
Yeah, I agree. So 10 samples a day, that would be about 300. What we do at Pool Size, we do a minimum of 200 samples per month, 200 samples, because we have tried less, we manage over 60 accounts. We have tried 20, 30, 40 a month, and it just does not move the needle. You might as well just not do anything if you're doing so little. So 200 samples per month, we see that is a minimum in order to start move the needle. Maybe we can do 2 more questions, and then we can end it. And I apologize again if we did not get to your question. You can always book a call, and we'll be more than happy to meet with you. Michael, some final question before we end here.
Yeah, here's a good question. And actually, this is fairly common of a situation if you have a very expensive, high OV, $100 to $300 retail product.
Yeah, I mean, look, we sell a $75 multivitamin, so I think it's definitely possible to sell a higher AOV item. I think it actually, if you have good margin on it, I think it makes a lot of sense on TikTok shops and it could work. I do think that the like holy grail price point is between $30 and $80. But I do think, there's a number of I think there's a top 10 seller today selling a bunch of exercise equipment that does go for greater than $100, right? And works well. So I think it's possible to sell any priced item higher AOV with good margins still makes a lot of sense for TikTok Shops for sure.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it's just also about strategy and who you're going to be working. Maybe less seating for a higher ticket item with more strategic seating would make sense.
100%. Yeah, because your seating, will cost you obviously a bit more. So
Yes, exactly. All right. Any other question you want to shoot out, Ernesto or Anthony
No,
CJ?
no, I think we're good. I think we're good. Jay, thank you very much for your time. Very valuable. We're gonna be sending the slides and the replay to everyone who attended. Thank you so much for attending. Michael, thank you for your time. Jay, thank you so much for always being willing to join us and answer any questions.
thanks
And
for having me.
yeah, we'll keep having more webinars. Thank you everybody for joining. And hey, Michael and Jay, have a great day.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. It's great talking to you.
Thanks, y'all. See you.